Oh, knockbacks have been in vogue recently. However, it's a pretty nice feeling when your first choice says yes to you. I'm joined here today by Craig Swan. While others have been left in red this week, we get the thumbs up for the man we wanted to come and join us. So it's game on. It's a fast-paced, rapid-fire format.
Okay.
Big debut.
Suitable for an old man like
Oh,
me?
of course, definitely.
Okay.
I've already introduced this as Craig Swan. I'm Graeme Young. And from Auchenhowie to the Auchie, we'll challenge the big questions Scottish sport this week. And where else can we start but Rangers? The story of probably the season, but especially the last couple of weeks. Have they made an almighty mess of this replacement of Russell Martin in their hunt to find a successor?
If you manage to find a successor within a fortnight of removing a manager that really you shouldn't have been expecting to remove as quickly as you had to, I'm not sure I would class that as a mess. I do think, I said it on Hotline Live and various other things, that Rangers had to take their time to make sure they got this one right. In some respects, you could say it's been done rather quickly. If you wanted to look at it another way. Listen, the Steven Gerrard situation was the one that puzzled me. The fact that it seemed convenient. The fans all liked Steven Gerrard, that's great. Oh, I've got everybody on side again. Oh, Steven Gerrard's the man. And then you get something about the timing isn't right. I mean, well, everybody knew the timing before Steven Gerrard flew all that distance to have a meeting, so I wasn't really sure about that. I'm not sure what the situation was there. But I wouldn't call it a mess. I wouldn't call it a mess. The thing that I can understand why Rangers fans would be a little bit irked is we're still not entirely sure of exactly when Kevin Muscat is going to get here, and obviously with Shanghai Port, they've got a season to finish. If that means he's going to be delayed when he's going to get to Rangers, and it might not be until here in maybe November, late November, then there's more games going to be missed. But Rangers have to get this one right, and if that means a few games are missed extra to make sure you've got the right man, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think, anyway. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I think the optics for Rangers fans, especially, is if nothing else, the new ownership is made to bring just a sleek way of working, just this American vision. Parik Marathi's obviously outlined that Leeds United, I think he was very upfront with Leeds United fan. I think he won them over very quickly. It doesn't feel like that's been replicated at Rangers. It's still, and then when you get to Kevin Muscat, a name who's been about for a long time, then no one can doubt his winning record. But the fact is that he was in the list for the previous regime as well.
Yeah.
I think there was a hope for something fresh, and again, Gerrard would fall under the same boat as well. And I think you outlined well how that's kind of played out. But there's definitely a sense, isn't there, that it's not quite gone to plan, and that obviously brings us on to Kevin Muscat. And you touched on it there about the fact he might have, well, he will see out the China Super League season. Will he be worth the wait?
Well, Rangers fans are going to have to hope so. Personally, I think he probably will be. I think there was various criteria put in place about what Rangers wanted. I think you've got an individual, he's shown his adaptability by being able to win titles in different countries, 3 different countries, I think. I've heard about that it's not a football philosophy as such. He's got an identity of the way he would like to play, but he's also adaptable, it seems. That's the feedback that we're getting, that he's prepared to change to suit games, so it's not some sort of football ideal that he's not going to change from, something that fans were not happy with the last manager. He's got experience. That's important. He's dealt with the managerial scene for quite a long time, and he also knows Glasgow, and he knows the situation around what's needed for Rangers. So there's so many boxes ticked in this one. And listen, it's natural people are going to make the comparison with Ange Postecoglou, and a lot of people doubted when Ange Postecoglou walked in the door at Celtic, and look what happened there. What Ange Postecoglou did was arguably probably the most exciting Celtic team in 15, 20 years that he assembled there. So the comparison is obvious. Whether Muscat can do the same thing, I don't know, but is he worth the wait? I would probably say the credentials make it look like he would be, yeah.
I like a lot of the stuff that you outlined there about Muscat, but I think it is dangerous that he's not so much. I think this has been a tighter title race by all accounts, and probably Shanghai Port thought they were going to be in. So now he needs to see it out with the Rangers story in the background. And also at the same time, the Rangers fixture list, you've got 7, 8 games there that are season defining. I think it's all well and good that, and I've noticed there's been a real feeling among the Rangers fans that they quite like the element of him seeing it out at Shanghai Port, because it shows a loyalty and he wants to finish the job there before he comes to Rangers, and they would accept maybe the same if
Graeme,
another job.
Rangers need to get this right, Graeme.
Of course,
they had to get this right, and this whole get somebody in for the Dundee United game and Saturday.
No, I get
all
that,
of that.
but we're a couple of weeks removed from a League Cup semi-final in an era where wins and trophies have not been easy to come by for Rangers, and if it goes south at Hampden and your manager's still in China, I think that's a really the optics of that are hard to if it doesn't go to plan. So there's a lot there for both Muscat and Rangers to kind of wade through over the coming weeks.
Right, let me ask you, what sort of Celtic team are they going to be facing?
Well,
I mean, when that semi-final comes at Hampden, there's obviously more games to come before then. But
that's
Brendan
true.
Rodgers has been talking about the quality that he didn't get in the transfer window in the summer. There's been some talk about Bobby Clarke was mentioned as a name. Now, regardless of whether Bobby Clarke ends up becoming a Celtic player or not, is that the type of player that Celtic, they've done it in the past, is that the market they should be back in again?
Yeah, unequivocally yes. And Bobby Clarke's one of these players. We're lucky, obviously, we get to look at the scouting stuff and all that as well. When he was linked with Rangers in the past, he's a proper player, attacking midfielder, and he fits every metric that Celtic like in their signing. Young, sellable, loads of room to develop, British-based player. I think Rodgers loves these academy-style players that just need an arm round the shoulder. Everything, it seems like the perfect transit. I think the Salzburg move, I think for context, happened because Pep Winders, who'd worked with at Liverpool, that wouldn't have maybe been the obvious move. It's not quite worked. Salzburg don't seem the team they were maybe 3-4 seasons either. So he's back in Derby County. He's doing pretty well by all accounts, but he needs that move. And I think Europa League football, obviously ideally it'd be Champions League football for Celtic, working under Brendan, but sometimes a transfer feels like a no-brainer. It's obviously far from finished. We're in October. You don't normally get transfers completed this time of year, but it does feel like
No, but there's an interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. I can remember being in Ferencváros. Well, you're not in Ferencváros, obviously in Budapest, when Celtic were playing Ferencváros, and I think it was the start of November, and I remember Ange Postecoglou being questioned by us guys after the game because the news about Reo Hatate was already out. It come out from Japan, and that was like November the 3rd or something, or 4th or something like that. Planning in place. He arrived with Dyson Maida on the 1st of January, if you remember. I think Berigucci was part of that group as well. But that's what Celtic need to be doing. Listen, we've banged on about this. Celtic should be looking at the winter transfer window on September the 2nd. And they should be looking at the summer transfer window on February the 2nd. It should be a constantly moving thing. So, as I say, regardless of whether it's Clarke or anyone else, these pieces need to be put, because Celtic have made the mistakes. And the mistakes have come back to haunt them massively with this Champions League situation, and may yet haunt them through the course of the domestic season, because we don't actually know whether the boys that have come in that have done okay, we don't know if they're going to be able to do it at a consistent level.
That's totally true, and I think the other element as well that Brendan Rodgers obviously ending his contract, but a sign like a Bobby Clarke, that kind of profile player, it would maybe intimate towards potential for the relationship to continue beyond. I think both would, as the season's going on, actually, I think it's more than likely that nobody would want to end in a whimper anyway, so I think nothing's off the table at this point. And then keeping it Celtic, and obviously right now as well, the board are under fire, principal shareholders are under fire, but Neil Lennon, former boss, player, captain, manager, has been extolling the virtues of the people he knows better than most. He claimed the most interesting part of the defence of the board was he said that the A-list manager Celtic have managed to accrue in terms of Brendan Rodgers, Martin O'Neill over the years, that it's Dermot Desmond that brings them to Scotland. Is that a fair assessment, or is that overselling the importance of Dermot Desmond?
I think you would have to. I mean, the first thing I would say is I'm certainly not going to sit here and disagree with Neil Lennon. I mean, a storied Celtic player, a manager at the club, knows the club inside out. He's had personal dealings with Dermot Desmond. You can't argue with the fact that guys like Martin O'Neill, Brendan Rodgers, Ange Postecoglou, well, I suppose you could argue at the time maybe Ange Postecoglou wasn't, but he became top class managers. So you have to be in the room and you have to really speak to those guys to know that. But if Neil Lennon's saying that, then I don't have any reason to doubt it. I mean, it can't just be one man. There's the history of Celtic, there's the background of Celtic. You obviously have a situation where, say, for instance, Brendan Rodgers was a Celtic supporter. So all that will feed into it as well. But there is no doubt that the people in the positions of power have to be impressive to get these guys in. So look, there's a lot of rancour at the moment amongst the Celtic supporters with the way things have been done, the way the hierarchy have handled things. Things have gone wrong in the transfer market. Overall, if you look at it, Celtic's domestic success with the people that are in charge has been excellent. They haven't done what they should have done in Europe. I don't think anyone would doubt that. They've failed in far too many Champions League qualification efforts. So, look, you have to be in the room with Dermot Desmond to know that. And Neil Lennon's been in the room with Dermot Desmond.
He's obviously a cult of personality. He's a big personality, isn't he? The way, but the bit that rankles with me, and it ties what you said about the Champions League qualifiers there, is that previously Neil Lennon a few weeks ago mentioned that it's really hard to get players. Don't understand how hard it is to get these top quality players to Scotland. And I'm sure that does ring true, just as it does at Dermot Desmond, adds an extra layer of glamour. But I think that's indicative of Celtic why sometimes maybe it is tied to the ambition where, listen, we're lucky to these guys, we're lucky. I think right now our Celtic fans are looking for more, maybe wrongly, but they're looking for more. That's in their world, they believe that more money should be spent on players.
And rightly so. There's no point in getting an elite manager if you're not going to back him.
Exactly, and that's the kind of discrepancy.
I get that. I get that. It's all right getting them in the door, but then you've got to give them the right tools. And I'm quite sure when everybody knew that Kyogo wanted to leave a summer ago, and everybody knew that I'm saying everybody knew. Clearly, it's come out subsequently. People inside the building at Celtic knew that Nicholas Kuhn and about March wanted to go. Well, the club should again, as we go back to the Bobby Clarke Rio Hatate thing, that new winger should have been identified in March to be ready to come in when Nicholas Kuhn left. So, as much as you can praise the Celtic hierarchy for things that have been done, you also have to criticise them for things that have been done as well. Dermot Desmond's part of that,
So talking about titles and title races, there's a team across in Gorgie who confidence is building every passing meeting, and Derek McInnes won't call a title race yet, and he's previous to that Aberdeen very cautious, but he's also been effusive in his praise of the squad that he has.
Should be.
Exactly. Would you be actually more surprised now, just what the evidence you've had so far, the type of player Tony Bloom's investing in? Would you be more surprised if Hearts weren't about at the business end of the season when it comes to deciding the title race?
I'll be surprised if they're not still around sort of mid-November, the time when I think we should still be talking, before we should really get serious about talking about this. I've said it till I'm blue in the face. I've made the Aberdeen comparison and I'm blue in the face. But
is this not different? We can see this as different. These players
fall into this trap all the time.
But the level of quality, I think, because you project for all these, we need somebody to disrupt, we need some, and then when they actually truly arrives, there's the natural trepidation where, never, you just...
Derek McInnes was the first man. History has taught us that it won't go on. Now, I hope that Hearts keep it going. I think we all do. People that love Scottish football, we see somebody have an extra challenge. Derek McInnes was the first man to point out that in the 7 games so far, Hearts have had sort of last-minute winners or injury time winners in 3 of them. So they're just getting by and getting results to get this run. But they are recruiting good players. They are getting stronger. The confidence is building. Would I be surprised if they're right up there in May? At this moment in time, yes. I would be surprised if they were still up there fighting at the end of May. I think it's maybe a season too soon for that. But if they can keep it going to sort of January, February, and like I say, I hope I'm wrong. And Derek McInnes is a brilliant manager. So if anybody's going to do it, it'll be him. But I think it's maybe a season too soon.
I think one interesting with Derek McInnes is I always felt, and I'm a massive admirer, I just think people are so quick to discredit how good the work at Aberdeen was. It was incredible. Year after year, consistency. 2 years in a row, finishing above Rangers. There's so many, all these cup finals, the team they had, it was brilliant. But one thing I really feel strong about is how comfortable he feels in this moment now.
Yeah.
He seems totally ready. His experience at Aberdeen, he maybe do things slightly differently than he did at the time. I think he, like you say, I don't think he would put £100, maybe he could probably, I think he'd put a large sum of money on Hearts on the table, but I think he knows there's enough there to get behind, and if he plays it right, there's no reason why he can't, just through just the way he speaks in the public and what he says behind the scenes, to keep his team right in the mix as well.
Yeah.
But it could be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and like I say, I hope it continues. I really do. I hope it continues. I'm at Kilmarnock Hearts tomorrow night. That should be another
big game. That's a proper game. That's what makes Scottish football, isn't it?
Saturday night. I do like these Saturday night games as well. Sorry, I'm going off topic.
No, you're welcome to.
Hearts Hibs, let's not kid ourselves, was a dreadful game, but it was made better by the atmosphere and being under the lights at night time.
And then the finish, the crescendo. And then the finish. Fantastic, exactly. So up to the Granite City we go. Jimmy Thelin, it's been a tough old season for him, but he got that win. It was so convincing against Dundee. conversely, poor Stephen Presley's been put under so much more pressure by the fact that that's who Aberdeen took out their pain on. But he's been linked with a return to Sweden, but not just anyone in Sweden, the Swedish national team.
Yeah.
He's very highly rated in his home country. Would this be one of these moves that, if it did come off, and there's no guarantees it will, would it suit both manager and club?
It's an interesting one, because this time a year ago you would have been laughed at for suggesting that. You'd have been dragged out in a street in Aberdeen, given a slap. But the results in the league in the calendar year have not been good. Listen, Jimmy Thelin is afforded hero status in Aberdeen. Winning that cup at Hampden in May has etched his name in the folklore of the club for good. I may be going off topic a little bit here, but I often wonder, I've often wondered for a long time why football players get paid an awful lot more money than their managers, for example, since the manager's the main man at the club. I often wonder why we talk about footballers and we don't count managers in the same way. What I'm trying to say here is, like, for instance, Brendan Rodgers wasn't working when he came to Celtic, and then when he moved to Leicester, Celtic got £7 million or something for him. Managers can be like players. Now, if Sweden have to pay a large amount of compensation, it's almost like a transfer. Like, a manager's come in, he's done a great job for a bit, he's won a trophy, and now you're going to make a profit on him. Would you consider it? Because I don't know what the thinking is in Aberdeen at the moment within the Aberdeen boardroom, but if Aberdeen's league results continue for the next 6 months as they have done for the next 6 months, Aberdeen will end up having to pay compensation to Jimmy Thelin to get him out, because he'll be getting tatty by, you would imagine, because the results can't continue, and where Aberdeen in the league are, obviously I know they won the game 4-0 against Dundee, but you know what I mean in general. Yeah. Out the League Cup before the semi-finals, so Motherwell and St Mirren in the other semi-final with Celtic and Rangers. So it's a massive job, a national team job, but there might be a carrot there for Aberdeen as well.
Yeah. And Dave Cormack, nothing if not loyal, has been tied to this to work. Everything about the setup, it's made for.
Listen, I'm not trying to sell Jimmy Thelin out of Aberdeen. I'm putting all the things.
Get the impression, but to me, and I've said this multiple times, they're probably the most disappointing team you watch in person. Just, you see more things, don't you? They're quite passive. They're never quite attacking off, or they never fall into their shape in the right way. And he speaks very well. Players, despite all the trials and tribulations, seem pretty on side with him. Yeah. But there's just something that's never quite worked. And I know the highs.
Results tell you that.
Exactly, of course. It's been a long time since Storm last year in St Mirren. It's been a long, long time with these results. But here we go. We go from club football to national team duty, and for many the results were great, but the performances were anything but. Now we've got
understatement.
Exactly. Anyone who's shivering against Belarus can watch this, right? But it's cards on the table time. Will Scotland qualify for the World Cup in America, Mexico and Canada next summer?
Cards on the table, I'm beginning to think yes, because I find it incomprehensible that you can play probably as weekly for 2 games and come out with 6 points. It just feels like things are written for Scotland in this campaign. The things are just, the performance wasn't great in the first game against Belarus, but they got over the line, they did the job professionally. Denmark was a kind of defensive, backs to the wall job in the 2 home games. How Greece didn't get anything out of that game. The way they played, and you watched them in the first half and you thought, they're playing a level above Scotland. This is just, Scotland's got players, Serie A, English Premier League, and look at these boys, are just knocking the ball around them. Movement, third men running, just brilliant stuff. We just couldn't get near them, and then ended up doing them in a finish. I'm beginning to think yes, because it just feels like things are falling for Scotland. It just feels like it. Now, I don't know how the Greek motivation is going to be for the game, and they're obviously going to want revenge, but really, they're out of it. Really, does that matter that much to them if Scotland can get a point there? And I think I've said before, Denmark will be Denmark are the top seeds, and they're the favourites when they come to Hampden, regardless of what the position is. But they'll be nervous as well, Graeme. They'll be feeling it when they get to Hampden.
You've laid it out nice. I think the Greece, you made the point there. The thing with Greece is they're already playing well now, and they're not winning. So we might just run into them in Athens, and they might not be playing that.
It's a very good point.
But that was as you marked out, the football was magic. But the one thing with Steve Clarke Scotland, right, when it goes wrong in nights like that, and it obviously ultimately went right, but it reminded me of Ukraine in the World Cup playoff, where sometimes guys aren't really, they're in a deep block, but they're not marking people, they're in spaces rather than marking men. We can't have another game like that. No. That's got to go. Whatever that was, do you know the Nations League last year, for all the results at start, there was a real tigerish quality about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
team. We
that's
need
right.
that team to come back
Yeah.
for the last 2 games.
It's very difficult to play 6 games. With the greatest respect to our own country, we're not going to have 6 top level performances in 6 qualifying games. It's just not going to happen. What I find quite encouraging is, okay, you can argue with me if you like, I think we've barely kicked a ball from 4 games and we've got 10 points. So you're putting all your eggs in the basket of the 2 performances are going to come when we really need them. That's what I'm banking on.
I know that seems. I know it's very exciting because it came out of nowhere as
It's
well.
very
Because
exciting.
and it's a proper. I know it's a stateside adventure. World
Yeah,
Cup.
we could be the only
Further-
country that gets booed into a World Cup final.
Exactly. Against Cape Verde and Guadalajara. You can feel it straight away. But we'll stick with Scotland there as well. And Andy Robertson spoke after the game. He's always up front. He's very soon he'll be the leading capsman as well with Kenny Dalglish. His commitment to his country is undoubted, right? He probably feels quite unlucky he's not in the Liverpool team at present, but his performances for Scotland. Is there an argument that taking Andy Robertson outside the starting 11 gives a better chance to get results against Greece and Denmark?
No.
Okay.
That's what I don't think so, because I think right away, listen, Andy Robertson puts his hand up and says himself he's always
Is that
honest.
enough to put your hand up? But
No, I'm getting to the point that he didn't play well. He knows he didn't play well. Very few in that Scotland squad played well over the 2 games. Who got pass marks in the 2 games, really? Not many. Andy Robertson didn't have his best. The issue you've got with Scotland at the moment is, it's funny, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we don't have a problem with goalkeepers. We've got the best. I mean, you go back, even before that, Jim Leighton and Andy Gorham, and then it was Craig Gordon and Alan McGregor. And next thing we're into qualifiers, and we've not got a goalkeeper that's playing a club game. 5 years ago, we've got 2 of the best left backs in Europe, Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson. Well, Andy Robertson's not guaranteed a game at Liverpool. Kieran Tierney's not guaranteed a game at Celtic now. So what's the option? You can switch system. I think that's something you might touch on. But, yeah. I mean, there was a time when Steve Clarke was trying to pick a team to fit the 2 of them into it. And now, so, Kieran Tierney, it's not happened since he's come back to Celtic yet. Yeah. Or to the levels that you know Kieran Tierney can play at. And so if you were asking me whether I would rather have Andy Robertson or Kieran Tierney right now, it would be Andy Robertson. And I'm not sure what the other option is. So, no, I don't think it would be a good idea to leave him out, no. A lot can happen in the next 3 weeks before the next 2 games. Kieran Tierney could be brilliant for Celtic, but right as it stands at the moment, no, I don't think it gives us a better chance.
I felt at times over the years Andy Robertson's probably taking more flack because he's the clearest example of a Scotland player at full flight at club football.
Yeah.
He was arguably for
the
2 or 3
Fletcher
years.
syndrome.
Exactly. But he was the most exciting attacking left full back in the world, and it just worked at Liverpool. But that is Liverpool.
But the big thing there, Graeme, was sorry to butt in, but the big thing there was it was flying forward and making things happen. Yep. And when he was getting caught defensively, guess who was beside him? Virgil van Dijk to clean up the mess.
He doesn't play for Scotland, does he?
Doesn't play for Scotland.
No, unfortunately.
So whenever he was leaving gaps, he was getting exploited. So
I do agree with that.
Make those unfair comparisons.
But I truly felt it was an endearing moment where you noticed that the defensive lapses for the goal and the one that was ruled out as well, it just feels that something's, maybe it's lack of football, and I think that needs to come into the fact that he's not playing regularly as well. Like you touched on, there could be a way of shift in shape. The Kieran Tierney for all this time used to play the left side of the free central. I think maybe a 3-5-2 as a more solid left full back. But again, you're right, Kieran Tierney hasn't been the player that he previously was, and it's been a tough start to him at Celtic. I think it's one of these ones where I think Steve Clarke needs to hope it turns out all right in the night as well. So we've had our fill of Scottish football. You got to take us for the hockey, your favourite of it all, the darts. It never stops thrilling, does it?
Well, I have to say, there's been a debate this week which I have to say has been one of the most ridiculous things I've heard for ages. Luke Littler appeared to draw some criticism for deciding to play in the World Youth Championship, a competition which he's fully entitled to play in at his age. He can play up to 23, 24. He won it in 2023. He qualifies, he meets the criteria, he plays, and then people start complaining about him playing in it.
Wait, is that just, do you believe this might be just the natural process that goes through every celeb who makes a rise like a superstar, and then people try to shoot them down? Is this just part of? And can you just take us in the inner workings of it? Why would people have a grievance when playing? Is this commonplace or
the grievance that seem to and before I go much further, the majority of the grievance, unfortunately, the world that we live in is driven by social media and clickbait and people moaning. That's basically what it was about. That Luke Littler is a world champion, oh, he shouldn't be going back down, playing with the youths again. It's denying somebody a chance of making their way through and getting rewards and getting a tour card or whatever. He doesn't need to play in it, blah, blah, blah. That's what it was. I didn't hear that much dissent amongst the folk that were actually competing. Nobody within...
Gio Van Veen was one of them that played as well.
Jan Van Veen played. And that was exactly Luke Littler's point. Keane Barry played, who's played in umpteen PDC major events. Jan Van Veen played, who's is one of the major stars of the PDC now coming through. Nobody complained about them playing. Yeah, it just seemed to be some... People just got on the high horse about Luke Littler that don't understand it. I'll tell you one person who didn't complain. Bo Greaves.
Brilliant.
You know what Bo Greaves did? She went on the board, came back for 4-2 down, 5-4 down, averaged 105 and beat him.
And Bo's too good a player, isn't she?
And Luke Littler missed a dart for a 9-darter and a 2 10-darters, I think, and averaged 107.
That's incredible. And do you not feel as well, someone who follows the sport closely, that Bo's such a great player, she deserves more than almost being a footnote and a Luke Littler got you? Sometimes almost that element where that's an incredible
I think she's
achievement,
about to prove it as well.
I know,
she's going to get the tour card. The news came out last night. There was a bit of indecision whether she would go and again play at the Lakeside or whether she was going to play at the Ali Pali in the PDC, and she's going to play in the World Championship.
Fantastic.
And Bo Greaves is a serious talent. And Luke Humphreys spoke about it earlier in the year and said she'll flourish and she'll do some damage. This is... she deserves to be there, and once she starts playing every week on the Pro Tour, which she now does, now she's got her card, she's going to rise up the rankings. Seriously, a proper player.
Fantastic. We'll need to watch out for that as well. So Swanee, if that's a 9-dart finish I've ever seen one there, that's perfect.
Impressive.
It was very good. So thank you so much for joining us today.
All right.
That was good fun, and as always you can catch us the usual place, Spotify, Apple, all the usual podcast sites. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Thank you. Take care.